Despite the clarification from the Supreme Court, Victor Oye is insisting that he is still the national chairman of APGA. Oye addressed a press conference where he stated that his leadership of the party is not in dispute and was settled long ago by the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court did not give any judgment today because it has already given its judgment on October 14, 2021, in which it affirmed the judgment of Court of Appeal Kano. And Court of Appeal Kano affirmed me as national chairman, resting on the judgment of Anoka High Court, which has not been appealed till date. And the Supreme Court affirmed the judgment of the Court of Appeal and dismissed all applications for joinder, including the application by the so-called Njoku. It was dismissed. So there was no way the Supreme Court could have sat in judgment over its own judgment. Because as far as we are concerned, that judgment is Rex Judicatum. Rex Judicatum. That judgment has been dealt with and is gone and gone forever. So Njoku cannot be national chairman of APGA because it does not exist. He was not a party to the suit at the Court of Appeal, Kano. He was not a party at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court threw away his application for joinder. What are we talking about in this country?
Well, let's now bring in the man at the center of this crisis, Edozie Njoku, who's been affirmed as APGA's national chairman. He joins us live in the studio. Good to see you, and thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. Yes,
you've heard him. He said,
I was just taken aback listening. I was just
shock of calling you maybe like an imposter. He says you're not even the man to be so brought in as the...
He's called me worse than that on this same channel's program. But I like what he said there. He said, as far as he and his people are concerned. He used that word. I think we should run away from... I was watching Adeleke's where the Court of Appeal said something, and everyone takes on to it. And the other man said they might go to the Supreme Court. Once the Supreme Court has spoken, it's final. All these things we're talking about, what Oye has said, we're just looking for trouble. It's been spoken and it's final. So why are you asking a man who has just been told that he's no longer national chairman, where the Supreme Court said that his name should be deleted from anywhere it is? That was their words. The judgment will be out on Monday. Deleted, he said, should be deleted. And we're still listening to what he's saying. We are the ones, but what do you expect him to be saying?
Well, according to him, I mean, he just said there that you were not a party in the case in the first place.
The second thing the judge read was that in 687, now what happened was, let me, in a nutshell, I was removed in Jigawa as national chairman. When I was removed as national chairman, a guy called Judo Keke, who claimed to be my deputy, went to court saying that he will take over from me because I was suspended. Then the man from the south said but the man from the north, Judo Keke, now won in Jigawa. And as soon as he won, if you remember, INEC recognized Judo Keke as acting national chairman. Not just that, Umoji's name, if you can remember, came in as the candidate of APGA through Judo Keke.
Right.
So, I'm moving forward from that. When all that was done, the Supreme Court now came. I rushed to join, and it has gone on up to the extent that the presiding judge came out of retirement because it became so much to say blah 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 and called me national chairman. The CJN of the Supreme Court wrote a letter on the 19th through the what do you call it, chief registrar, to say national chairman, I beg you, come through a motion. We went through the motion. We got this judgment we got now. So what's the problem?
Apparently, APGA right now, in spite of the Supreme Court judgment, is a fractured party. There are factions. What will be your priority in terms of bringing all sides together and really moving forward so that maybe APGA can actually become a mainstream party?
I was with Oye, I begged him to please stay calm. Come and join us, let's build a party. Party is not a one-man thing. No. Politics is a game of numbers. Until we appreciate that politics is a game of numbers, we won't move forward. APGA should have been doing much better than we're doing.
So you actually approached him
No, we were on channels together. I don't know how the two of us were now sitting down together on channels. You understand? So I said, but why? Why? You are the former chairman. Why don't you agree with that?
Yeah. So the question is, now that you're
I'm the national chairman.
Yes. Yeah. What will be your priority?
My priority, first and foremost, is we start rebuilding. Labour Party has shaken us up in the southeast and in the whole of Nigeria. Good things. We want some seats in Bayelsa. We want some seats in Taraba. Hold on to that and build the party. Our stronghold is meant to be the southeast, but it's not a southeastern party. But we must galvanize up. People have so much love for APGA and say, come on, let us wake up from from where we found ourselves. We know where him and the governor of where we P2B. It shouldn't be like, because our people believe in that party, and we threw our people under the bus. That's why those results came that way.
And when you talk about the belief of your people and the governor, let's talk about the governor of Anambra State, who is
our only governor at the moment.
The only governor of APGA.
Yeah.
Has he reached out to you since the judgment?
You know, I always say that, but people from him have reached. I said he's going to call me later. But let me tell you why it's a bit difficult for him, because you brought him out. So sometimes he might look as if he's. But now, in the press conference, I said he's going to rise to the occasion, and let's talk.
So you're going to recognize him as
he's a governor. He's a governor now.
In spite of the fact that he emerged from the.
You're not dabbling into party politics. The thing is, like people ask you about the candidates who are mad. This is our internal affair of our party. I also sort out. I'm the national chairman now, and I have an executive. We'll sort ourselves out. But the most important thing is that the rule of law must be obeyed.
Actually, again, in moving forward, we also must not forget what happened in Jigawa that led to your suspension and subsequently removal, making INEC to recognize Jude Oye. Jude Okeke. So, have you been able to reach out to others?
Even Jude Okeke and Co. on Monday, they've all agreed that they're coming out on Monday to stand with me for a press conference to say, let us start building APGA. I had the call about 3-4 hours ago. Everyone is. The only one you see standing away from that is, so I asked him to calm down. Life is not like that.
All right, well,
fight.
You can say that again. Let's talk about the just concluded governorship elections. Of course, Frank Nweke Jr. was the candidate, or is the candidate? Was a
candidate recognized by INEC, yes.
Recognized by INEC of APGA. And the party has condemned the role of security agencies during the elections. Are you looking at going to court to seek
Should I be very honest with you?
Yeah.
Jude Okeke, not Jude Okeke, he came out from the faction of Oye. It doesn't matter, but whatever. But these are things we'll all sit down in the next 48 to 72 hours and fashion out a policy for the party. The party are sitting. I just rushed here now, and we will address all these issues. I've never really met him before.
Frank Nweke.
I've never met him before. You understand? I'm being honest with you. Right. He came out from Oyes, but that doesn't mean anything. We are all APGA.
What exactly is your vision for APGA?
I was the first Vice National Chairman of APGA on registration. We had a vision for this party. We looked at the situation of Nigeria before it was formed. That vision is exactly what that's why I went and dug back Chief Chekwa Zokura and said, come back with us, let's start rebuilding. Or anybody who is a member of, let's all come back and have a vision together. But we had a vision ab initio that we're a party for the marginalized. No matter where you are, whether you're a GOM, whether you are in Igbo land and you feel you're marginalized, come in and let your, we have manifesto. We're one party with a straightforward manifesto. But I don't think we have all the time now to be talking about that. But we must go back to those things. And P2B showed something. No, I shouldn't call it P2B. I mean, that movement showed Nigeria that the vote counts. And APGA should not throw that away, to know that it's the work we do from today to 20 that makes us relevant.
And is Chekwa Zokura excited about coming back?
Chekwa Zokura, he was my presidential candidate. He won our primary as presidential candidate. You understand? He was our presidential candidate. But all those things, let's keep them under the carpet. Let's build a political movement, a political structure that nobody can withstand. Peter has helped the Southeast to show that they are not that irrelevant. We must build on that.
Are you going to be looking at some kind of alliance with the Labour Party? Or
politics is
is that something you're looking at?
Politics
and beyond, APGA till date is seen as a regional party. How will you bring APGA to mainstream?
I said to you earlier on that we won elections in Taraba and we won that in Bayelsa. We're going to build on that. you asked a question about alliances. Politics is based on alliances. I must align with you. And to give you an information, there is no way a Southeasterner can be president of Nigeria without an understanding with the other zones, whether it's Yoruba or Hausa. It's all alliances. We need to keep talking. We don't need to just come out and do our thing. We need to have political understanding for us to move forward as a Southeast. But I'm not a Southeastern national chairman. I'm the national chairman of APGA, which is a national party.
Great. Fantastic. Is that where we leave it?
Yeah, well, I'd like to thank you for your time and see how it pans out in the next few hours from now.
Few hours?
Yeah, you did say, well, in the next 48 or 72 hours.
Yes,
So
we'll have it. Thank you.
all right.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
All right, moving on now for a balanced and legal perspective on this. We're joined by Arise legal analyst Frank Tete. Frank, good to see you. Okay, so help us understand what this really is all about, because there seems to be a conflicting judgment from the Supreme Court. Is that what it is?
No. It's not a conflicting judgment in any way. It's relieving that the Supreme Court has corrected itself, which is a normal procedure in legal practice, in law, that every court, not only the Supreme Court, can actually correct its mistakes when they are clerical, when the manifest intention of the court has been mistaken by one form of slip or a typographical error. So what the court needs to do is to simply take back the judgment, correct it, without even informing the parties. But in this case, because it has very serious, significant political implications, the court had to write to the chairman of APGA, Njoku, that he should come by way of motion. The court didn't need to do that, but just because the court cannot suo motu, that is on its own, just make a pronouncement to have a more clarification to the order, it had to ask him to come with an application which is a motion. So there is nothing strange or untoward about the procedure of the court. It's good to know that the relief has been expressed in the way that Njoku is swaying on that swivel chair and then forgetting that he was once indicted. I mean, he was once charged to court, and then the bench warrant was issued to arrest him for being the one who actually forged the judgment. To think that Njoku seemed to have forgotten all of that so quickly shows that the beauty of victory can actually wipe out a lot of tears. Njoku actually suffered greatly. The police had to grill him, arraign him, and in fact made arrangements to arraign him before an FCT High Court, and he was being chased all over the place by the police for being accused by Victor Oye as the one who actually forged the judgment, whereas it was not so. The truth about it is that the police ought to have done a more thorough investigation by asking how it happened that a party that was a person who was never a party at the court of first instance was eventually now pronounced as the chairman, his name coming up in the judgment. Victor Edozie ought not to have gone through that terrible ordeal which he went through. But it's good that he is now looking forward to do real politics and not looking back at what he went through as a result of the clerical mistake of the Supreme Court typist in this case. But Justice Mary Odili, when trying to make that clarification, even after she has retired, said that because Victor Oye's name kept on coming up in course of reading the facts and analyzing the case, she mistakenly mentioned Victor Oye. And you know, in that court, you have electronic recorders and that transcribe whatever the justices say. So whatever proceeds out of the mouth of the justice is actually recorded. And she clarified it in a letter, and that would have ended it. But because of the contention and the extent that Victor Oye went in getting the police and to arraign Edozie and to even vilify the court and to make certain very unsavory comments about the court, saying that Edozie had gone to procure judgment, had gone to write judgment and all that. Politicians will not destroy this country for goodness sake by making allusions, trying to destroy the institution of the judiciary. You can't say that any individual will go and write a judgment of the Supreme Court and then present. How? But that is the extent that they went. But it's good that the Supreme Court has made that clarification. And by legal practice and judicial standard, nothing serious has happened. It's a normal process for a court, even though no court can sit over its judgment, even the Supreme Court, unless it decides to overrule itself. But when it comes to clerical errors, and the manifest intention of the court is clear to everyone, the court can make that correction without even informing the parties.
Well, I think before we'll let you go quickly here, Tete, I'm happy that you moved a little bit into the politics of what's happening now. How come it's so soothing for politicians well, to praise the same court and at some other time have some kind of reservation when they are supposed to approach the courts? How does it feel as a lawyer?
Because politicians always think they can use everybody and use the courts, use institutions and all that. They need to be careful. And it's also because, just imagine the posture that Victor Oye is adopting when the final superior Supreme Court of the land has made a pronouncement and then you see to want to reinterpret it. What sort of contemptuous behavior is that? And you wouldn't blame him, because even the man who is supposed to, superintend over the enforcement of the Supreme Court judgment, I'm talking about the president and his attorney general, oftentimes dilly-dally when Supreme Court makes the judgment orders. So, and that is becoming a norm. That's why you can find an individual like Victor Oye making that kind of pronouncement when the Supreme Court has made a pronouncement, has given a judgment order, made a clarification. Who are you? I mean, you risk being sent to prison for contempt. So I hope that will not happen because of the posture that Dosia is adopted now. He seems to be quite happy with what is going on now and has forgotten all his sorrows, and he's fixated with how he will be able to build APGA that has been punished by the Labour Party in the recent concluded elections.
Well, it's called sweet victory. Now, the Supreme Court not too long ago actually asked politicians not to use, the judiciary as a scapegoat. We may want to remind the politicians about that again. But how does the judiciary extricates in itself, from this drama around politics that really does not, paint the good picture about Nigeria's, politics or democracy, if you like?
I think we should be careful the way we relate to the judiciary. It has been made a scapegoat enough for all of these evil chicaneries of politicians who often make it appear as if it carries the weight of their misdeeds. The truth about it is that you must understand that in practice, every application you put before any court, no matter how ridiculous the application or the case you file before a court, it must hear it and make a pronouncement. So, most times, legal principles are not commonplace. That's why you have to have a minimum of 10 years to be a judicial officer in a high court. There's a very high degree of application of a mixture of principles, facts, and law before you come to certain conclusions. And so when these judges make these decisions that are not easily understandable by the public, and then they now begin to say judges take bribe, or they've been influenced by where they come from, or whoever has appointed them, that should stop. We must come to a point that democracy can work, and then the principle of separation of powers can ensure freedom and stability of our democracy only when we pretend, if we have to, that whatever proceeds out of the court it's just, is right until set aside. And when ultimately the Supreme Court makes a pronouncement, nobody should dare to challenge it. You can criticize it for academic purposes, hoping that when new justices are appointed, they may take a different view when the same set of facts come before them. But to think of denigrating the Supreme Court in the manners that we have seen in the build-up to the election must stop. And we must appreciate that contempt proceedings must not actually be initiated by the Supreme Court itself. We are amazed that the fact that the law is this, that any court whatsoever, wherever in this country, can actually take anybody, prosecute anybody for vilifying or denigrating any court. So we should be looking forward to seeing many more instances of persons being tried for contempt of court, so that there will be a restoration of respect for the judiciary. And then when we have judicial officers who have committed any malfeasance or the other, they should be adequately punished so that we can restore the sacrosanctity of the judiciary. Again, we must not play with the judiciary, because it is not only the last hope of the common man, but it's the bastion of democracy democracy in terms of stability. We don't want the whole place coming up in flames because of politicians who make very flimsy, callous statements just because they are losers. There should be a limit to where they play to, and not to the Supreme Court or the courts in general. No matter how they perceive the judge to have behaved, whether he knows the law or not, or whether he comes, whether he's an Igbo man or he's a Yoruba man, that's why he's making that pronouncement, or there is a very strong imagination or perception that he collected bribes, you better shut up if you don't have anything to prove in that direction, and stop vilifying the judiciary before we turn this democracy upside down, and then we all be the losers in the long run.
You can say that again. Very well said. Frank Tete is a lawyer and a Rise News analyst. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.